Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
So we just want to welcome you today to talk about two different pieces of legislation. Come on over here, Pat. That we are proposing. One of them has to do with the Event Center Campus Task Force Group, wanting that to be open to the public. That's in a resolution form, and that's on the agenda for next week. And the other one is a $500,000 allocation of funds to help with the pothole repair, because we've been hearing from citizens that this is a huge problem of personal property, of personal safety, and also it's a reputation issue for our city because they've never been this bad before.
No, I think that's great. I mean, if you want, let's break the two
Sure.
issues together, and thank you for coming this afternoon.
Yes.
But I think there are two really main things that we're trying to accomplish, and the Event Center Task Force, I think, is one of the main concerns that we have, and that's probably the easiest way to start. Doing the public's business is so important to do it and open it to the public, to make sure that the public knows when we meet, when we discuss those issues. The thing that concerns me the most is when you do things behind closed doors. You have a task force meet. There's a lot of give and take that goes with it. There's a lot of information that's given to the group that's doing this. And when the public's not involved, then the group comes to this compromise and they make the final recommendations because they have all of the information that it takes to make a decision. When you do that behind closed doors, the public isn't brought along. What we find out in government all the time is we talk about it as city councilors, we talk about it as bureaucrats and city employees, but we don't bring the public along in the process. And then we spend anywhere from months to years, and we come to this really great conclusion because we've studied it, and then we say we're going to approve this and make $1 million decisions, and the public's left behind and they're not brought along. And then we say, what are you upset about? We've been talking about this for years or months or whatever the time frame is, and we just don't bring the citizens along to help make that decision. And that's where the conflict for me in the Event Center Task Force, not meeting, not opening it to the public and being available to the public, we can't bring the public along. Because what happens is all of a sudden someone from the public says, well, did you ever think of this? Did you ever think of this? Well, that won't work because, and then that information's been shared as part of the group. And it leaves the public way behind. And it doesn't involve them in the process. So we think that it's really important that this group meet publicly and be open to the public. And this resolution is making that statement. We base the resolution on the Attorney General's opinion that says that all task force, these types of subgroups, if they don't have sovereign power, that they still need to do everything they can to be held and to be open to the public. And that's the bottom line. They need to be noticed. The public has to have the opportunity to participate. I know the group's already met once, and I would hope in the future that we will allow people plenty of time to put it on their calendar and to be involved in the process.
And moving forward, this also, it's an issue that we need to establish with our new administration that this is how we want things done. We just got notification that they're going to do a street light study. And I asked the mayor's office this week, I sent it back and I said, is this street light study going to be open to the public, the study group? And they have not responded to me. So part of this issue, I think, is lack of communication. We're finding out information through the media. We are not being told in a timely manner how we're proceeding with these important citizen issues. So I think it's very appropriate. We worked for several weeks on this resolution. We got it signed off on by the city attorney yesterday, and it's scheduled to be discussed at the city council meeting. And I think that it's going to be a good discussion to have because we want to set a standard that we have in our community for involvement with the citizens on taxpayer-funded facilities.
So I don't know if the city or the mayor's office is going to send out a public email, but we received information from the mayor's office saying that these meetings will now be public, and that was decided in the first meeting, because Pat, as you mentioned, they had just met one time, and so they decided after they met that they wanted to make these open, and that the group also said that they had a lot to study of the campus itself before going into any recommendations.
Well, we had a report from Councilor Kurt Sale last week, and he made no mention about that being discussed. And we believe that we forced their hand in getting this resolution out yesterday, because we got this on the docket, and then suddenly we hear that they're going to be open. So it's a win-win for our city. It's a win-win, and we're going to continue to work for openness and put out legislation there that's going to promote that. And if that helps the mayor to respond, then that's a good thing. That's fabulous for our community.
So will you still be bringing up this resolution even though?
It's on the agenda. We are still going to be talking about it. We'll still be voting on it.
One of the things we did a couple of weeks ago is that we decided as a council, as kind of a procedure, is that we won't allow the sponsor of a resolution or ordinance to withdraw it once it's on the agenda. So we'll still have to have a vote on Tuesday. And I think it's full of good things. I think it reminds the community how important this is. So if that's the case, I'd like to thank the mayor for sending that out this morning, that once he had heard that we have this resolution coming forward, that they've decided to tell the public now that it's an open process. I think that's a win for our community.
On the email you sent out, it was between the email you sent and the resolution's exact wording, it was somewhat unclear. Is the resolution voting to recommend or require that the event study group be open to the public?
I don't know that we have the authority to mandate that. So it's just the council voting as a group that we think that we would like to recommend that.
And Theresa, I asked you this off camera, but did the two of you originally go to the mayor's office first and ask them, hey, can you guys make these meetings with this study group open?
And my response was I left emails or voicemails with the mayor asking him about that, telling him about my concern. I put out a Stehly report, again, indicating that I was concerned that these meetings were closed, and I've never heard anything from the mayor about any part of this. Not one piece of communication. And we've actually gotten more information from the media than we've gotten from the mayor. So I think there is a communication need, but I will also say publicly that I've been told by the mayor, we all have, that when he's been asked us to keep, or he's actually slapped our hands for sharing non-confidential information with the public. And I've said to him, I'm into more information for the people. There are very few things that we keep from the public. And when we start having this closed environment of proceedings, that is not good for the people. That's not open and transparent. So I think this is breaking through that, to saying to the mayor, we've got to be upfront with people and with the council as to what's happening. This is not a private business. This is the government. This is the people's business. It's the people's money. And we need to err more on the side of openness versus closed door discussions.
You sent out your email announcing this press conference last night?
Yes, last night.
So, found it very interesting that about an hour ago, at sometime after 12, there all of a sudden comes this announcement from the administration that a secret committee decided in secret to vote to open up the secret meetings, and now we're left with a very interesting set of information. We're happy that they're planning to open up the meetings, but in the press release coming from the mayor, because they no longer send me press releases, what have you heard that they are going to do in this opening of information?
I've heard nothing up to this point.
So you two are members of the council, and you've yet to be informed officially by the mayor's office.
I have not
that
gotten informed.
This is gonna happen.
To be
And-
fair, I haven't seen my email for a couple hours, so if it did come shortly after lunch, that's true, but it's amazing how the process here of who announced first of that it needs to be open. And that's where the sleight of hand feels like it's coming from, that, oh, all of a sudden now that they're going to bring a resolution, you're now ready to tell us that we're gonna open the meeting, so your resolution doesn't really matter.
But
And-
February-
that's
And
the feeling I'm getting.
TJ Nelson, our mayor's chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, told the Argus Leader that sometimes you've got to shut the door to get things done. And that, I take great issue with that, because the public doesn't want the door shut. They want the door open when we're talking about their money being spent on projects.
I guess the other thing is the quote on one of the other issues that have been kind of controversial in the last couple of weeks. The quote from the communications director or the deputy chief of staff was, these three counselors weren't included, didn't have anything to do with this decision, which is basically the mayor's office saying, we came up with a solution, we don't need the counselors to be part of this. And when that solution was sent out, there was a news release sent to the media, and then after that, there was an email sent to the council and said, here's our solution that we're going to propose at Monday's meeting. So if there's a lack of communication, it's coming from Mr. Nelson, not from the council not communicating with the mayor's office.
So have you all pitched an idea, because it sounds like communication is an issue among the counselors and the mayor's office. Have you proposed having an open door meeting where the public can attend if they want, but it would mainly be for all of you to meet and say, hey, we are having issues with communication. We would like more press releases from your office. We wouldn't like to hear these things from the media, or we have an issue with A or B. Have you proposed that?
No, well, and you can't just have us get together, I mean, then that becomes a public meeting. So having all the counselors together to say that, we can't just do that. What I did do is I had a budget working session. We had his staff come in. We all talked about it. We've certainly invited his staff to be involved in our conversations. And we did meet with the city attorney on both of these issues, as is the protocol. So counselors are constantly making legislation, and we don't come together as a group beforehand and have input into necessarily that legislation. Fire pits, we had axe throwing come at us. Counselor Nightsearch has got a thing about apartments that he's proposing. He put that together. And so the same thing, we heard the public saying we're concerned about these meetings being closed, and so we've got the resolution proposed. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be open. That's how you do things, out in public. This is the forum. Same thing with, let's go on to the pothole issue. I've been hearing on Facebook, people are very concerned about the state of our streets. And the mayor wrote on his Facebook page this week that our workers are overtaxed, and he is suggesting that we bring donuts to the workers and that we send them thank you cards. Councilor Starr and I decided, as a legislative body who handles the budget, we're going to propose this ordinance that's going to allocate more money so that the city can use that for their discretion to hire more workers to help with this pothole issue. Because I think everything's getting burdensome for them to address all these issues with streets. And the mayor's telling people to go out and clean out their own storm water drains because we don't have enough people to do it. See, citizens are very concerned that we want city staff to be able to help with these basic services. So we're proposing this ordinance to allocate more money. We handle the budget. It's going to be discussed at the city council meeting next week. Hopefully, we had the city attorney look at it. So that is open government. First reading would happen, and the council can vote to go forward or not. But we discuss it.
I think one of the things that I want to do is just be very clear that we're not saying the Public Works Department isn't doing a good job. What's happening is we've had a winter, and we've had several of them in a row now, where street maintenance has to take a back burner because of funding. We don't have the staff that's necessary to fill potholes. You can't fill potholes in January because they have to be dry and clean and to make long-term type of things. But we obviously recognize that there is a problem with the street condition in Sioux Falls right now. So our suggestion is to allocate enough money, which is the role of the council, to give those, whether it brings in additional staff, can we bring in temporary seasonal workers and start them earlier? Some of that has to do with weather conditions and roads drying up and things warming up. Our role as a council, the charter, our governing document is very specific that we can't tell city employees what to do. We can't tell them to do things for us, we can't. Our role is to give them and to set policy and to say that we're in a position where the streets are past where we can get a handle on it and we need to do something additional. So here are the additional funds that it takes to get us up to speed. So again, not anybody's doing a bad job. I'm very respectful of what our city employees, as well as what our contractors do for our city. And to get them past the point of overtime, I'm trying to remember the number of weekends in a row that they've worked for us and serving our citizens. They're on 10 and 12-hour shifts. That gets long and old rather quickly. So how do we solve that for them? And I appreciate thank you notes, but I know in my jobs that I've had in the past that donuts and thank you notes don't get me past working a 12-hour shift over the weekend where I haven't seen my family. So we have to give them the opportunity to be creative. We just this week had our budget wrap up of what our numbers were for 2018. We put almost $10 million into the city savings account that we didn't spend. We're saying with this ordinance, we need to take $500,000 and give that to the Public Works Department to get a handle on the road conditions and the street conditions in the city of Sioux Falls. They need that extra help. This is how we help our employees get ahead of mandatory overtime, mandatory extended shifts, them flex timing their abilities. So until we get past the severe conditions that we've had this winter, last winter, and catching up with those things, this is how we're going to give the Public Works Department that flexibility to get a solution and to take us to that next step.
So I spoke with TJ Nelson this morning, and he, in a similar thing to sort of the events group, I think he said, you guys didn't contact him about the roads. He said they're working on a supplemental budget for 2019 that has aspects of addressing road concerns. Was that a similar thing where you guys have not heard any?
No, we had this morning we're working on a supplemental once they heard that we were bringing in an ordinance. I mean, it's kind of funny chicken and egg type of situation back and forth. You have a political answer to a problem that's becoming a safety issue for our citizens.
Well,
so now you cover your backside, I'm going to say more than I should. Now you're covering your backside and trying to say you're already working on this and we should know whatever secret plan is there. There's been no communications from the administration that they're working on whatever.
No, all I saw was that Ted Hagan said bring donuts and a thank you note.
And obviously,
I mean, you're the bearer, I get it.
All I know is what they told me this morning, but I'm just saying, did you reach out to them with the proposal of?
No, we didn't, because we created this and we're going to bring it to a first. We don't have to try to get their blessing on anything we bring forward. I mean, we thought we're an independent entity. We're hearing the concern. We have control over the budget, so we thought let's bring this forward. And in the midst of the conversation, if they come out and say, well, we're doing this and this, great. Then let's talk about it as we bring this forward. But again, we are independent. So if we see there's a problem, we have every right to create something that's going to help to address that. As a council, we don't have to get permission from the mayor to bring something forward.
You didn't ask us for a quote. We came to you so that we can talk to our constituents. The media gives us that ability. My constituents that I talk to, whether it's at church or at school with my kids, are saying we need to do something about the road conditions in Sioux Falls. That the potholes are worse than they've ever been. I hear it over and over again. You see the social media posts about it. It's our job as a council to set policy. We heard budget numbers on Tuesday. We have the money to make that ability. To me, where there'd be a problem is if we were saying, you have to do this, you have to do this. We want it addressed. Here are the funds to make it addressed. Bring us the plan. Maybe 500,000 is too much, it's too little. Let's have that discussion Tuesday night, and we're giving them the opportunity to do that as well. It's not, again, going back to saying anybody's doing a bad job, but we've got to do something different. We need to, the council has that ability to say, policy-wise, we need to do better. Or we need to get past this phase when things are worse than what we would expect them to be in a normal year.
What do you have to say to the drivers? One of the reasons I was late was somebody just lost their front end assembly on their car. They hit a good pothole, and so it's sitting there now.
Well, and let me say back to this thing about, I think what the city has been saying to people, I've been watching it on they have their city Facebook website thing, and people have been complaining, and they say, take a picture, they say put it, call the pothole hotline, do our app, our new app, okay? So we've been doing that. People are saying, wait a minute, we're supposed to be stopping in the middle of traffic and getting the photo or, texting you right here. And people are getting angry. I've been seeing it on Facebook. So I'm like, the city is telling people, we'll do this. So Councilor Starr and I are saying, well, this is what, we don't tell the mayor what to do, okay? So we're saying, let's offer this money and maybe use the workforce from the penitentiary. I've been talking about that forever. $1.25 an hour. Get some more people out here to start filling these potholes up, because people are getting very, very upset about this.
Well, I think that's the other thing is that this will provide a vehicle. Well, maybe we'll match the legislature and pass some of the open legislation. But we're going to have a solution this Tuesday night that starts the process. So by the time we have first reading and then second reading a week from Tuesday, almost 2 weeks from now, then it has to be published. We're in the middle of April before that supplemental appropriation. I'm not sure how much longer Mr. Nelson would have waited. We're at a point where we need something done, and our citizens are asking us to do something, and we're going to establish that policy and get things rolling to make that happen. And like I said, the 500,000 is a number to start the process. Maybe it's too much, maybe it's too little, but it gets us started moving in the right direction. That could take, a long time. I've been doing this long enough. I totally understand that you can't fix potholes on a day like today. I understand that the hot mix plant has to be up and running, and it has to be warm enough before either suppliers do that. But again, it's what we have to do the planning on the front end now in March to be able to get a head start on it in April. And the number of crews, the number of how we're trying to do things, we just need more than what we're doing, and we want to facilitate that process.
And had they come to us and said, we want an extra 500,000, the whole process it's either they would come to us or we're doing it on our own.
Where is the $500,000 number coming from? Did you speak with road crews? Where did you get the?
No,
what made you come to that number?
we've got a surplus in the budget. So we're just saying you can use that for your own discretion.
Is the surplus of $500,000?
No, it's more than how much.
We put almost 10 million in surplus. There was $5 million in 2018. We had $5 million allocated in 2018 that all the departments didn't spend that went into the city reserve. There was $4.5 million of capital surplus that was also there. So that's 9.5. Roughly it gets to 10 by the time all the rounding. $1 million here, $1 million there. It starts to amount to some decent money. It was a number to start the discussion. What we wanted to do is say to our constituents that are saying, you've got to do something.
Yes.
We're doing something
Yes.
today. We started the process of saying policy-wise, this is what we want to accomplish. And that's why we're going to give Public Works the ability to come in and say, that's way too much, we don't need it. They have the ability to not spend it. They give us the opportunity to say, hey, that's not going to touch it. We need to be closer to whatever that number is. We're going to give them that opportunity to do that. But we got to start now. We can't wait until April or May, and then we're going to still be in the same place in June. It's got to start now in March.
So you said you've been, along with this one, you've been working on this for a few weeks, as with the events campus group, this ordinance?
No, this one just came up yesterday.
Okay, so you haven't talked to, like...
Fellow councilors,
No,
we haven't
no,
talked.
we just
to-
can't, we just said this
it's
is
time.
I felt it's an emergency situation, okay? Now, not that it's an emergency declaration. I don't have the authority to do that, but I think if you asked our citizens, they think it's a pretty top priority concern.
So have you talked to Mark Cotter or Dustin Hanson, the street operations manager, about
We
if
have.
you guys need this money?
We've talked in the past about doing additional road projects. We added extra money to the 18 budget to do street repairs. So we've spent a lot of time in the process of getting to this point. So what do we need to do? We're going to allow them to be creative in the process of how they use it and can best handle it. But we've got to do more than offer.
And if they
cookies.
come out, Vanessa, if they come out and say, we don't need the money, we've got it handled, then that's what they say to the public. We've got it handled. I'm just seeing from what the mayor has been saying, that he's telling people that we're doing things as we need to be doing. I think the public wants something more. And in leadership, as a separate entity, we have every right to think for ourselves and to say, we're bringing this forward, we'll have a discussion, and at the end of the day, the city can say, you know, they can take it or leave it. And the
That's
rest.
what Tuesday night's going to be for. I would encourage people that think the roads are in poor condition and need some extra help and that this is a good idea. They can come to first reading on Tuesday night, or if they say everything's fine, let them do it. To us, we represent the citizens of Sioux Falls, and we want to bring that discussion Tuesday night. I feel angry. I don't mean to be angry.
And one more thing. We work for the citizens. We are the liaisons from the citizens to city government. And there are times when we're hearing things that the mayor's not, that TJ is not. And so we need to be continuing. We did it before our new mayor came on board. We haven't changed our energy at all. We're continuing to listen to people, to use our independence as leaders, as separate entities, legislatively, to represent the people. I sent out a Stehly report. I mailed that out at my own expense, telling people what's going on. I have a right to speak from my heart and my priorities to let them know these are important things. So we're taking a proactive approach here to let this dialogue happen within our community for both of these issues.
And I think that's totally appropriate. The only thing is I don't necessarily think that you should be using the media as the middleman, because right now, I personally feel like a middleman that you guys are coming to us to then tell the mayor's office that this is going on. Why not go straight to
No,
the mayor's office
we're
and say,
talking
"Let's
about,
look
we're
at this
talking about
together."
putting it in front of the citizens as far as taking a vote on this, as far as legislatively. And let me say, the mayor certainly has press releases all the time. The mayor has ultimate control over what is being expressed to the media. You know, we haven't had a press conference like this for over a year and a half. I mean, we're not putting this out all the time.
Yeah,
So-
we don't run, we have lots of communication. So what's interesting is that we do a lot of things behind the scenes as well, where we do have that communication. There are just times where we get to this point where this is a community discussion. This is us saying that this is the legislation that we're going to introduce on Tuesday.
And if, let's just say the mayor hadn't come out with this, they hadn't said they're going to make this open. At what point would this be appropriate for us to bring this forward? At what point do we get to have a public discussion to let the citizens know we want this thing opened up?
I just think the timing is interesting that all of a sudden today we hear, because when we decide to bring this forward, all of a sudden we hear from the mayor's office that, well, we decided to already open this up, so it's not a story. Or they didn't communicate with us. They didn't communicate on the other side that says, hey, when they met, is it 2 weeks ago now? 10 days, whenever they met, the task force met.
Not a
They
word.
they didn't contact you and say, hey, next time it's going to be open and allow the media and the public to come to the event. They said it today when we brought a resolution forward because it's going to be on the agenda tomorrow. Or, tomorrow is when we do the preliminary release of the working agenda. And then 5 o'clock on Friday, the
But
final agenda.
the mayor,
So it's
when he developed the task force, he's sending press releases out all the time to tell you what he's doing. So we have every right to try to, at least to get the message out to you that this is what we're doing.
But I think the question comes to, if we get to first reading on council, and Mark Cotter comes up and says, actually, we don't need this money, the budget's fine, we just need to get to better weather, wouldn't it have been a faster process for you to have reached out to Mark Cotter, spoken about this, and then determined whether, I think that's the question I've got, is why not reach out to Mark Cotter, say, hey, we're gonna do a press conference tomorrow, but first off, here's what we're proposing, $500,000 per pothole. Does that make sense? Or when we bring this, are you going to say, like you said, he might say, that's too much money, we don't need that, we just need X, Y, Z.
Well, go ahead.
All right. We did, 2 weeks ago, the mayor has a meeting with his directors, an agenda review meeting on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. We asked Director Cotter where we were at budget-wise, and he said, look, I'm too busy to know where we're at in the budget. So that communication has happened. It's just, and that's where we said, all right, we need to do something. And we need to have the conversation because the public is demanding that we do something. And that's where I think the discussion is. Now we learned today via news release, well, they're already working on bringing a supplemental budget procedure to us. So that does bring us to the right point. I don't know, am I supposed to ask every time that, they're working on stuff?
When it's
Yes.
$500,000, I think the
Absolutely.
taxpayers would appreciate that more. And I get the potholes are an issue. I spoke with Dustin Hanson, the street operations manager, on Saturday and said, hey, I was driving to work. I hit a ton of potholes, and that was kind of the beginning of the rain that we've been seeing. And he said, we have been clearing snow, we've been clearing storm inlets, and that's been priority right now.
Right, yeah.
As soon as this is done, we're gonna get to those potholes. So is money the right answer? I personally have no idea because
Right.
to him, I need to follow up with that question. So,
But we're gonna, listen, had we not had the press conference, we're gonna talk about this anyway. We're moving forward to put this on the docket. So I think anytime we're telling people this is what's coming, that's a good thing. Because it's happening anyway. And we're gonna continue to tell you what we're working on. We're not gonna stop talking to the media. We're not going to.
and that's not what we're asking.
No,
Well,
I didn't think, I don't think it was either. And
Well-
I think what we're trying to accomplish is to have that discussion Tuesday night. And this makes that available option to our community to say, what can we do?
and you're gonna alert this, if you can alert the community that this discussion is happening, that's not a bad thing. But up to this point, I had not heard the city saying anything about putting more money, more effort into this. I'm hearing that they're taxed out, they're maxed out. So maybe they're gonna come forth and say we got it all covered. And then the citizens are gonna hear, that they've got it all covered. The priorities have been readjusted. Amen, okay.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
softballs.